We're fixated on titles, followers, things that cost a lot. We pursue them, these markers of success, but there's this underlying anxiety that comes with it. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, wrote about this feeling. He wrote it 2,000 years ago. He said the applause of a crowd, it means nothing. Because it isn't based on anything true, anything inside you. That idea, it's ancient, but it speaks directly to what we deal with now. So this is about Stoic philosophy. The principles there, they point toward a different kind of path, one that's more resilient, more fulfilling. We need to look at that difference, the one between internal worth and external validation. We have to see what's actually within our control, and then how you build a character that doesn't shake. It may be an idea of achievement if it's missing the central piece. What's the real goal when you chase success? It seems straightforward, but usually we just list things: a promotion, a certain title, a level of wealth, a lifestyle. Stoicism pushes you to look deeper at the purpose of the chase itself. They called that the telos, the ultimate aim of a human life. For the Stoics, the telos wasn't a destination you reach with a new car or a corner office. It was a way of traveling. Their aim was to live in accordance with nature and virtue. And virtue here, it's not about moral perfection. It's about cultivating a strength of character built on 4 pillars: wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. True success, what they called Eudaimonia, is that deep, unshakable flourishing from living by those principles. It's entirely internal. It's the peace you feel when you act with integrity, even alone. It's the resilience you build facing a challenge with courage, not because it looks brave, but because it's right. And that stands in stark contrast to what a status-driven culture offers. Those rewards are external. They're given by others, and they can be taken away just as easily. Seneca wrote about this. In one letter, he points out the emptiness of being admired. He said, "What good is it for me to be praised by people I wouldn't even want to approve of? The applause of a crowd means nothing if the crowd doesn't understand what's truly good." Think about that now. Imagine 2 people. One is climbing the corporate ladder with relentless ambition, stepping on colleagues, cutting corners, sacrificing ethics for every rung gained. They may reach the top, they may have the title, the salary, but their success is brittle. It depends entirely on that position, that title. It creates a constant, low-grade anxiety, a fear of losing what defines them. Now consider another person. They work diligently, treat others fairly, take pride in doing their job well, even if it isn't glamorous. Their satisfaction comes from the work itself, from knowing they acted with integrity and contributed something of value. Their sense of worth isn't leased from a job title. It's owned by their character. That's the Stoic telos in action. So here's a small step. If you have a moment, write down your current definition of success. Just a few words, then look at it. How much is based on cultivating internal virtues like wisdom or justice, and how much is tied to external validators like recognition, possessions, positions? There's no right or wrong answer, only clarity, and that clarity is the first crucial step in building something more durable than status. The most powerful Stoic tool is a sorting exercise. It comes from Epictetus. He started his handbook with a line: "Some things are up to us and some things are not. What's up to us are our opinions, our impulses, what we desire, what we do. Our own actions. What's not up to us is our body, our property, our reputation, what other people do." That's the dichotomy of control. It's not about passive acceptance. It's a strategy for focus, a filter for your energy. In a world obsessed with status, that filter becomes essential, because every status symbol you can think of falls into that second category. The one you don't fully control, a promotion, the likes on a post, your salary, what others think of you. You can influence these things, you can work toward them. But you don't control the final outcome. That depends on other people's decisions, on market forces, on chance. What you do control completely is your own effort. Your character, your preparation, your integrity, your perseverance, your judgment about what is good. Think of a job interview. What's up to you? You can research the company. You can practice your answers. You can choose your clothes, get rest, walk in with confidence. You can decide to be honest. All of that is your domain. What's not up to you, whether the interviewer had a bad morning, whether a better candidate applied last minute, whether the company's budget got cut, whether they just prefer someone else's style. Fretting over that second list, the outcome, is where we waste energy. That's where anxiety lives. The Stoic approach is to invest everything into the first list. Your actions, and then meet the result with calm, because it was never yours to command. That's how you disarm the status game. The game wants you to tie your self-worth to the uncontrollable prize. Stoicism asks you to tie it to the quality of your effort. So take a status worry you might have now, a performance review, a project's reception, some social metric. Sort it consciously. Write down what you truly control, your preparation, your attitude, your daily work. Then write down what you don't, the final decision. Other people's perceptions, the market response. See the division. Feel the weight lift from that second column. Your job is the first column. The rest isn't your burden. This filter, practiced daily, doesn't make you indifferent to results. It makes you resilient. Stoicism says you can achieve more by wanting less, which seems like a contradiction. But it's a reorientation of desire. They called this the discipline of desire. It's not about suppressing wants. It's about training your wants, aligning them with what's truly good, and with what's already within your reach. In a culture that's always whispering you need the next thing to be happy, this discipline is a kind of rebellion. It asks, what if the freedom you're looking for comes from wanting differently, not from acquiring more status? There's a core practice, negative visualization. Premeditatio malorum. It's not about expecting the worst out of fear. It's a conscious exercise in appreciation. You briefly contemplate the temporary nature of the good things you already have. Your health, your relationships, your current position. You imagine, not with dread but with clarity, what it would be like if they were gone, and then you return to the present. The effect is immediate. That promotion you're fixated on loses its desperate edge because you see the value in the work you do right now, the skills you're building, the colleagues you learn from. You approach advancement from a place of existing strength, from gratitude, not from a feeling of lack. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this in his private writings. He wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave for them if they were not yours." He was the most powerful man in the known world, yet his focus was on the sufficiency of little, on the contentment available in the present moment, regardless of his station. So how does this look? Consider someone eyeing a leadership role. The status-driven approach is a hungry gaze forward, a feeling of incompleteness until the title is theirs. The Stoic-influenced approach is different. First, they practice appreciating their current role. They list the responsibilities they've mastered, the problems they solve, the value they provide. They see it as enough for now. This doesn't kill ambition, it purifies it. Now, their desire for promotion shifts. It's no longer about filling a void of inadequacy or gaining social proof. It becomes about the opportunity to exercise greater wisdom, to practice justice on a wider scale, to serve more people. The desire is aligned with virtue, not validation. The pursuit feels lighter, even if the work is harder. So here's a reflective prompt. What is one thing you are chasing for status that, if you never attained it, you could still find contentment? Pause on that, not as a resignation, but as an exploration. If the answer is yes, you could find contentment. Notice how that changes the energy of the chase. It might become quieter, more deliberate, more yours. That shift is the beginning of a freedom that no one can award you, and no one can take away. Marcus Aurelius didn't enjoy being emperor. He enjoyed doing the work. The crown wasn't a reward to him. It was just a place to practice virtue that points to an idea later called Amor Fati by Nietzsche. Loving your fate, it's this Stoic adjacent thought, embracing your whole path, not just the destination you wanted. It means looking at your life, your career, the whole journey. All the unexpected turns, the things that feel like failures, and saying, I don't just accept this, I love this for what it teaches me. That's the real shift away from status fixation. You stop being in love with a specific position or a specific outcome. You fall in love with the process of becoming, with the raw material of your own life. Amor Fati makes every obstacle a training ground, a missed promotion that stops being a verdict on your worth. It becomes a lesson in resilience, or maybe a nudge to ask what you really want. Harsh criticism becomes a test of your humility, a chance to sort useful feedback from noise, a project that gets no recognition, that becomes a private masterclass. In Discipline, in Craft, Marcus wrote about this in his journal. He said the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He was reminding himself, the thing blocking your path is the substance you use to build a new one. It's the friction that strengthens your resolve. Think about an entrepreneur. The status narrative celebrates the unicorn startup, the viral app, the big exit. But what about the venture that quietly fails, the one that taught its founder about cash flow? About team dynamics, about their own limits? With Amor Fati, that founder doesn't see a resume stain. They see a necessary education. The real success that comes later isn't just a bigger market share. It's the deeper mastery, the wiser leadership, the more grounded vision that came from that difficult experience. Their success becomes authentic because it's integrated with their whole story. Not just a single highlight, so here's a space to step into. Think of a recent setback, a disappointment, something that felt like a failure in the moment. Maybe a rejected project, a goal you fell short of, a plan that unraveled. Instead of rushing past it, sit with it. Ask one simple question. In what way did this experience serve my character development? Did it teach you patience you didn't know you needed? Did it reveal a strength in starting over? Did it clarify what you actually value versus what you thought you were supposed to want? That lesson, that small piece of forged resilience, that's the gift of Amor Fati. It's how you start to love the path itself, finding value in every step. Not just the ones that lead to a podium. From the edge of the solar system, your ambitions look different. That's the Stoic view from above. You zoom out, far out. You see your city as a dot, your country as a shape, the whole planet a pale blue marble. And in that scale, the promotion you want, the slight you're holding onto, the status you're after, it loses its weight. This perspective works against vanity, against that exhausting work of comparing yourself. From a cosmic distance, the difference between a CEO and an intern is trivial. They're both human beings, brief lives on the same small world. What matters isn't the title on the door, it's how they lived. Did they act with wisdom? Show courage, treat others with justice, practice temperance. That's the only measure that holds up at that scale. Marcus Aurelius returned to this. He wrote, "Look at the past empires rising and falling. Think of the future, all the people who will live never knowing you existed." He said the longest fame and the shortest both end in oblivion. In the grand story of time, the applause you want today is a whisper. Lost in an endless wind. This isn't to make your efforts feel pointless. It's to free them from pettiness, to redirect your energy toward what endures. Your character, your virtue, the good you do, those are the only things that resonate beyond the tiny stage of your own social circle. So how do you use this? Before a high-stakes meeting where you're desperate to impress, you pause, you take a breath, and for 10 seconds you pull your mind's eye back, see the building. Then the city, then the continent from space. Remember, the meeting is one conversation in one room on one planet, spinning in an immense quiet. That doesn't make the meeting unimportant. It clarifies its true importance. It's an opportunity to practice your craft, to communicate clearly, to collaborate, not a verdict on your entire worth. Or when you're scrolling and feel that pang, someone else's vacation, their new car, their milestone, practice the view from above. See both of you as small, wonderful, temporary creatures sharing a planet. Your journey and theirs are both unique. Comparison at that scale becomes impossible, and the envy softens. It's replaced by a quieter curiosity about your own path. So here's a prompt. The next time you feel that tight anxiety about your standing, about where you rank, try this. Close your eyes if you can. See the worry as a small, bright point. Then watch the frame pull back past your room, your home, your neighborhood, further until the earth is a globe hanging in the black. Hold that image. Then ask, from here, what truly matters about how I live this day? The answer that comes isn't about status, it's about substance, and that shift in focus, from the microscopic drama of social hierarchy to the cosmic stage of a human life well lived, that's the ultimate liberation Stoicism offers. If your self-worth is a castle, the Stoics had a name for that, the Inner Citadel. That's the core of you, your reason, your character, your capacity for virtue. And no outside event can get in, not unless you open the gates yourself, from the inside. True success for them wasn't about the flags you hang on the outer walls. It was about the strength of the fortress, the quiet strength of the structure itself. And status-driven cultures, they're always trying to storm that place. They send this message that your value is alone, that it can be called in, based on your job title, your social media metrics, what you own. They make your peace depend on things you don't control. So the Stoic practice is the daily work of fortification, building walls of self-knowledge, digging moats of clear principle. Epictetus said it plainly. He said no one can hurt you, not unless you give them permission, through your own judgments. An insult only lands if you judge it as damaging. Losing status only wounds if you've tied your identity to that status. The attack is on your opinion of the event, not on you. Think about someone who gets a public demotion, a respected manager moved to a less visible role. The status narrative says that's failure. It invites shame. It tells them they're diminished. But if their inner citadel is strong, the response is different. They might feel the sting, the natural disappointment, but then they return to their fortress. They assess, what is within my control here, my effort, my integrity, my willingness to learn in this new role. They separate the event from their worth. Their dignity wasn't in the old title, it was in their character. So they approach the new position with the same principles. They maintain self-respect not by fighting the demotion, but by excelling at their current duties. With grace, their value, proven to themselves daily through action, stays intact. That's the ultimate defense against a culture that measures people in ranks. Your citadel is built brick by brick, through choices only you see. It's telling the truth when a lie is easier. It's persevering on a difficult project when no one is watching. It's showing kindness to someone who can offer nothing in return. Each act is a stone laid, strengthening the structure from within. So, identify one pillar of your own inner citadel. One core virtue or skill you're cultivating for its own sake, without anyone's applause. Is it your diligence, your creativity, your compassion, your honesty? Name it and then consider how you can reinforce that pillar today with a single, quiet action. That action won't trend online. It might not advance your career, but it will fortify a space where your true worth resides beyond the reach of any external storm. The Stoics saw the universe as a single community, a cosmopolis, and in that cosmopolis, everyone has a part to play. Success from that view isn't about the prestige of the role, it's about the excellence you bring to it. That's role ethics. Your fulfillment comes from playing your part well, with wisdom, with integrity. Wherever you happen to be standing, it challenges that modern feeling. The scramble for a better title, a more impressive position. The Stoic asks a different question, not how to get a better part, but how to play this one superbly. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor. He wrote about clearing the clutter from your mind by seeing the scale of the world, by contemplating infinite time, and seeing how rapidly everything changes. He was reminding himself that even an emperor's role was just a part, a temporary assignment. His duty was to do the work of a human being well within it. The prestige was irrelevant. The execution was everything. Take a teacher. In a status-driven culture, success might mean moving out of the classroom, becoming a department head, then an administrator. The title changes. The perceived importance rises. But what if that teacher finds their deepest fulfillment in the daily act of connecting with students, in explaining a difficult concept until the light goes on, in being a steady presence for them? Pursuing an administrative role just for the title would be a betrayal. Their success is in the mastery of their craft right where they are. Their recognition is the growth they foster. This doesn't mean you never seek advancement. It means you examine your reason. Is it to escape a role you disdain, or to embrace a new one where you can express virtue more fully? Is it to gain authority for its own sake, or to have a wider sphere to practice justice? The focus shifts from the costume to the character you bring, so it's a space for reflection. How can you perform your current primary role with more virtue today? As a parent, an employee, a neighbor, not by wishing for a different script, but by bringing your full attention to the lines you've been given, to play this part not for applause, but for the sake of the play itself. The praise you want might be just as unreliable as the criticism you're afraid of. They're both noise, external impressions. That's the Stoic term for it. Just data to look at, not to accept without question. We live in a world that pushes this idea that you need to be liked, admired, validated. Seeing through that is a kind of self-defense. Popularity isn't stable. It changes with trends, with moods. It isn't a measure of your value. It's just a sign of what other people are thinking at that moment. The Stoic approach is to take it all in the same way, the applause and the insults. You say thank you for the feedback, then you bring it inside. You look at it under your own light. Does this praise actually point to a virtue, something like diligence or creativity? Or is it flattery meant to manipulate? And the criticism, does it have a piece of truth I can use to grow? Or is it just someone's poor judgment? Maybe they were having a bad day. The final judge is your own standard, your own virtue, not how loud the crowd is. Seneca wrote about this. He talked about the foolishness of it, how people get so excited by applause from a crowd they would never ask for serious advice. There's a real danger there, letting your mood, your sense of self, be pulled around by people who don't know you. Your stability has to come from inside. From knowing you acted with good character. Think about an artist, a painter. The path driven by status is to chase what's trending, to create for the algorithm, to measure success in likes and shares. That artist's emotional state becomes a roller coaster. A piece goes viral and they feel like a genius. The next piece is ignored and they feel like a fraud. The Stoic artist makes a different choice. They focus on the integrity of the work itself, the mastery of the technique, the truth they're trying to put on the canvas. They pour their virtue into the process, their discipline, their vision. When they finish, they can look at the work and know for themselves if it met their own standard. If it did, that's their success. If it goes viral, that's a pleasant external event. If it's ignored, that's also an external event. Their peace was in the making. Their worth was in the effort. The public reaction is just weather outside the window. It doesn't change how solid the house is, so try a small exercise. Think of a recent compliment you got, and then a recent criticism, even a small one. Hold them both in your mind. Practice setting them aside. Put them side by side. See them not as truths about you, but as reports, data from the outside. Now ask yourself neutrally, how did I do against my own standards in that situation? What did I do well by my own measure of diligence or kindness? Where could I have done better by my own measure of growth? That mental space between the external noise and your own evaluation. That's where your real authority is. It's the quiet room where you decide who you are, untouched by flattery or blame. Stoics look for mild discomfort on purpose. It sounds strange, counterintuitive, but it's training, like a vaccine, against the fear of losing your comfort or your status. It's not punishment. It's about proving something to yourself, that your peace, your core well-being, doesn't depend on the soft chair, or the perfect meal, or the constant validation. You build a confidence from knowing you can handle less. The philosopher Musonius Rufus taught this. He said athletes train their bodies with hard exercise. We have to train our souls with voluntary hardship. He talked about simple food, rough clothing, sleeping on a hard bed. The goal wasn't deprivation. It was freedom, to show the soul that luxury is a preference, not a requirement for happiness. By choosing a little discomfort, you disarm its power over you. You break that automatic link in your mind between ease and worth, between luxury and success. Think about status anxiety. It whispers that you need the newest model. The premium experience, the visible sign you've arrived. It makes your contentment conditional. Voluntary discomfort interrupts that script consciously. You take the bus instead of driving to a meeting, not because you have to, because you choose to. In that act, you're making a statement to yourself. My value isn't in the vehicle. My capability to arrive, to contribute, is still intact. Or a digital Sabbath, a full day away from social media, where so much status comparison lives. You feel the initial itch, the pull to check, but you sit with the quiet, and you discover your sense of self, your calm, was there all along, waiting beneath the noise. Another practice, wearing simple, comfortable clothes to an event where others are dressed to impress. You go not to stand out, but to participate, unburdened by the anxiety of your outfit. Your focus shifts from how you are perceived to the experience itself, to the conversations you have. Each of these small acts is a rehearsal for resilience. Building muscle memory for a time when hardship isn't voluntary. When a financial setback comes or a change in circumstances, you won't be shattered. Because you've already learned, in a safe way, that you are more than your possessions, that your character operates just fine without the trimmings. So a challenge, a reflective prompt. Choose one small, voluntary discomfort to practice this week. It must be safe, reasonable. It could be a cold shower for 1 minute. A simple meal of plain ingredients, turning off notifications for an afternoon, walking instead of driving for a short errand. The key is the voluntary nature. You are in command. Observe what happens. Notice the initial resistance, then the subtle shift. Afterward, pay attention to your relationship with the status symbols around you. Does that advertisement feel less compelling? Does the impulse to compare feel quieter? That small space you create between wanting and needing is where a profound kind of freedom begins to grow. The Stoics, they didn't think about death in a morbid way. It was more like a tool for setting priorities. They had a name for it, Memento Mori, a reminder that you will die. And this practice, it wasn't about fear, it was about clarity. It strips everything else away, all the distractions. When you see your time as limited, what's left is what actually matters. And what fades, what sort of disappears, is usually the thing everyone tells you to chase. Your social standing, for instance. Facing death shows you what that really is. It's a temporary costume. It doesn't mean anything in the end, so this creates an urgency, but not for frantic achievement, for living with virtue right now. It asks one question: if you knew your time was short, would you still be after that corner office? Would you still be polishing your online image, or would your energy go somewhere else? Marcus Aurelius, he wrote about this often. He said you could leave life right now, and you should let that determine what you do, what you say and think. He didn't see a short life as a tragedy. He saw it as the necessary frame for a meaningful one. He also pointed out the great leveling fact: in death, the famous and the forgotten, they return to the same elements. The emperor and the farmer are equal. That reminder dissolves hierarchy. It makes the scramble for a higher rank look childish, like kids arguing over a chair on a sinking ship. The chair doesn't matter. How you help the person next to you, that matters. There's a story about an executive. They spent decades climbing. Their identity was their title, their influence, their accolades. Then a health scare happened. They faced their own fragility, and in that uncertainty, something shifted. The things that felt so urgent just days before the quarterly reports, the office politics, the next promotion, they lost all their weight. What came into focus were quiet moments with family, the desire to pass on wisdom to younger colleagues, not for credit, but for their growth, the simple pleasure of a conversation without an agenda. After recovering, they didn't leave their career, but they reordered their priorities. They stepped back from the relentless pursuit of status. They invested time in mentoring. They protected space for connection. Their success was redefined, no longer measured by external markers, but by the depth of their impact, the peace in their days. That's Memento Mori in action. It isn't about quitting your job. It's about bringing the priorities that death reveals into your life. So here's a space to reflect. If you want, write this down. How would your daily priorities shift if you kept your mortality in mind? Not as a dark cloud, but as a clarifying lens. Would you spend an hour differently? Would you have a different conversation? Would you let go of a grievance that suddenly seems small? The answer isn't a to-do list for a last day. It's a compass for today, pointing you toward what the Stoics called the good life, a life of virtue, connection, and presence, untroubled by the applause that won't follow you. Contentment in Stoicism isn't settling. It's more like a platform, a base for action that's actually fearless. Think of a ship anchored in a calm harbor. And then think of one that's adrift, just chasing every light it sees out there. The anchored ship is secure. The crew can rest there. They can make repairs. They can plan the next voyage from a place of strength. The drifting ship is at the mercy of the waves. Every wind pushes it. It's desperate for any port at all. And status cultures, they sell that drift. They tell you contentment is laziness, that you have to stay hungry, always chasing the next horizon to prove you have worth. But Stoicism redefines the harbor. It says true contentment is the active use of what's already in front of you, using it with appreciation. It's not that desire goes away. It's that you have a sense of sufficiency, and that makes your desires clearer, purer, less frantic. A content mind is a clear mind. It's strategic. It's not easily manipulated. When you're fundamentally okay with what you have, advertisements lose their pull. Social media highlight reels, they're just reels. They're not a measure of your life. You can watch the status game and not feel compelled to play. That clarity is a kind of superpower. It lets you assess opportunities based on alignment with your values. Not from a panicked need to keep up. Epictetus knew this. He was born into servitude. He taught that wealth and high status aren't required for a good life. He asked, who is the good man? The one who finds good in every lot of life. The good is found in the right use of reason, in virtuous action, and that's available to anyone. Anywhere, your circumstances are just the raw material. Your character is the craft. So consider someone in a modest role, an administrative assistant, a line cook, a groundskeeper. The status narrative might call that a stepping stone or a dead end, but a person practicing Stoic contentment sees it differently. They find satisfaction in mastering the craft, in an orderly filing system that saves the team hours, in a perfectly prepared meal that brings comfort, in a cared-for garden that offers peace. They don't see the role as small. They see it as their current station for expressing diligence and care and excellence. That attitude, that commitment to virtue in the present, it has a magnetic quality. It often attracts better opportunities naturally, not from desperate networking, not from polishing a personal brand, but because their reliable character becomes visible, their clear-minded competence. People start to trust them. Leaders see them as pillars. Advancement finds them, often in forms they weren't even chasing. So here's a space for reflection, a simple prompt. List 3 things you already possess right now that are sufficient for meaningful progress today. Not grand future dreams, present realities. One might be a skill you've undervalued, like your patience or your ability to listen. Another could be a supportive relationship, even a quiet, steady one. The third could be a simple resource, a library card, a reliable internet connection, an hour of uninterrupted time. Write them down. See them not as inadequate stepping stones, but as the solid ground you're standing on. This is your platform. From here, with a content and clear mind, you can see what fearless action becomes possible. A career setback isn't a stain, it's fertilizer. That's the Stoic view. It's not about bouncing back, it's about growing from the hardship. There's a word for that now. Antifragility. Some things break under stress, others withstand it. They're resilient, but the antifragile actually gets better. For the Stoic, that improvement comes from reason. A disciplined use of reason. When you're anchored in virtue and the dichotomy of control, disorder doesn't shatter you. It becomes raw material, a chance to practice wisdom, courage, justice, temperance in real time. Seneca wrote about this in his essay on Providence. He wrote, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests strong men." That's the crucial point. Difficulties don't happen to you, they happen for you. They're the arena where your character is revealed, and more importantly, where it's strengthened. A smooth life from this view is a missed opportunity, no friction to build strength against. In a status culture, a setback is a mark of shame, a public failure, a rejection, something to hide, to explain away, to recover from quickly. The Stoic response is to lean into it, to ask, what can this teach me? How can this make my foundations more solid? Look at Seneca's own life. He was a prominent senator, an advisor in Rome. Then he was accused, political rivals likely. The Emperor Claudius sent him into exile. For 8 years on the island of Corsica, removed from all of it, the status, the power, the sophistication of Roman society. That was the disorder, the potential breaking point, but Seneca used it. He turned it into a period of writing, philosophical reflection. Some of his most enduring works came from that time. His letters, his essays, the ones we still read. The exile didn't diminish his legacy. It became central to it. It proved his philosophy wasn't just theory. It was a tool for transforming loss into a deeper kind of gain. Now bring that forward. A modern context. Someone passed over for a promotion they worked hard for. The status narrative screams failure. It whispers, you aren't good enough, others are ahead. The emotional reaction might be to shrink, to become bitter, or to redouble efforts in a frantic way. The antifragile approach is different. The Stoic informed approach first sought the event with the dichotomy of control. Acknowledge the disappointment, the sting, that's natural. Then ask, what is within my control now? My reaction, my analysis, my next steps. They might realize the feedback points to a skill gap, something they can address now with training. They might see their true passion lies in a different direction, a direction the promotion would have taken them away from. The setback becomes diagnostic. It clarifies the path. It makes them wiser about the organization, about themselves. They return to work not with a bruised ego, but with sharper insight. A more resilient sense of purpose. Their worth tied to their character has grown. So then, look back on your own journey, one past failure, the one that in hindsight made you more resilient, or clarified your true path. It doesn't have to be monumental, a project that fell apart, a relationship that changed, a goal you missed. Sit with that memory not as a regret but as a teacher. Ask it, what strength did I discover? What unnecessary attachment to external validation did I learn to release? What clearer direction did this reveal? That lesson, that forged resilience, that's the antifragile gain. It's the fertilizer. It allows a different, sturdier kind of success to grow. The Stoic gives everything to their effort, but nothing to the trophy. That's the balance. It sounds like a contradiction, but it's the heart of it. This isn't about not caring. It's about caring deeply, but without the fear of what comes after. Your measure of success changes. It becomes about the attempt, the action itself, not the reward that might or might not come. Epictetus talked about this. He used the image of a banquet. Someone passes you a dish. You take a polite portion. It passes. Don't hold it back. Or if it hasn't reached you yet, don't stretch your desire toward it. Wait until it comes to you. Apply that to any goal, to status. Play the game well. Follow the rules. Pay full attention. But be indifferent to winning or losing the prize. The prize isn't up to you. How you play the game is. Think of an athlete, someone dedicated. For months they train, they eat right, they study form. They wake early and push through fatigue. Their whole focus is the process, the quality of the stride, the repetition. Race day comes, they step to the line. They run their plan with everything they have. They leave nothing behind. They finish. They might come in first. They might come in fifth. They might not place. The Stoic athlete finds peace either way, not because winning didn't matter, but because their main goal was already met. It was met in the preparation. It was met in the full effort of the race itself. The final ranking is just information. It's feedback for the next cycle. It isn't the measure of their worth. Their worth was proven in the discipline of the morning runs, in the courage to start. That can't be taken away by a judge's call or someone else's better day. This detachment from the outcome is what stops the bitterness of a deserved success that never arrives. You pour your soul into a project. You know the work was excellent, but the client picks another firm. The committee chooses a different candidate. The market ignores what you made. If your well-being was chained to that specific yes, the no feels like annihilation. It breeds resentment, a feeling the world is unfair, that you were robbed. But if your success was in the excellence of the work itself, in the problems solved, the skills honed, the integrity you kept, then the external result is a separate event. It's a change in direction, not a verdict on your value. That clarity lets you adapt. You're not nursing a wounded ego. You're free to assess, to learn, to pivot, to begin again from strength, not defeat. So take a goal you have now, professional, creative, personal. In your mind, separate it. On one side, put the outcome, the promotion, the sale, the recognition. Acknowledge that this isn't fully within your control. On the other side, put the daily actions, the preparation, the focused work, the ethical choices, the perseverance. This is your domain. This is where your 100% commitment goes. For 1 week, shift your measure of success to that second column. At the end of each day, ask only, did I engage with my actions fully and with integrity? Let the outcome exist, but untethered from how you judge yourself. Notice the space that opens. The anxiety about the future might soften. The energy for the present work might feel cleaner, lighter. That's the practice. Not wanting less, but investing your want where it actually matters. What happens once you've made it? The Stoics had a clear answer. You haven't actually arrived. You just keep doing the work. That idea breaks apart a common illusion in cultures obsessed with status. The illusion that success is a fixed place, a finish line you cross. A trophy for the shelf. I'll be successful when I get the promotion, when I reach a certain income, when I buy that house. That's the arrival fallacy. And it creates a strange emptiness when you finally get there, because if success is a destination, then what is life after you arrive? Often, it's a letdown. A quiet question: is this all there is? The Stoic view offers a different map. Here, success isn't a place you reach, it's a direction you travel. It's the continuous, daily practice of virtue. A never-ending process of becoming a better person. There's no final version of you to achieve. There's only the next choice, the next chance to act with a little more wisdom. A little more courage, a little more justice. The journey itself is the point. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this in his private notes. He wrote, "Never stop being a work in progress." He told himself, you have to keep walking, you have to make progress, don't expect a finish line in moral growth. For him, the most powerful man in the world, the work was never done. The title of emperor wasn't the achievement, it was just the context for the real work, the work on his own character. Every single day, you can see the contrast in two different paths. First, a corporate executive who fully believes in the arrival fallacy. They burn through years, sacrificing health, relationships, their own interests. All for the goal of making partner or becoming a vice president. The day finally comes, they get the title, the corner office, the money, and for a few weeks there's a high. But then it fades. The work is the same, just with more pressure. The anxiety hasn't gone away. It's just shifted to keeping that position, to getting the next title. That cycle leads to burnout, to a deep sense of emptiness, because the goal was a mirage. It promised fulfillment but only delivered a new starting line for more of the same striving. Now picture a master craftsman, a furniture maker maybe, or a gardener, or a teacher with decades of experience. They don't see a final masterpiece they'll one day complete and then stop. They see their craft as a lifelong pursuit. Each piece of wood teaches them about grain. Each season in the garden reveals a new lesson in patience. Each student presents a unique challenge in communication. Their engagement is sustained, not because they're chasing a distant finish line, but because the practice itself is rewarding. The mastery is in the endless refinement. The small improvements, the deep knowledge that comes from repetition and attention. Their success is felt in the flow of the work, not in a certificate on the wall. That shift from destination to process changes everything about how you approach your ambitions. It takes the immense pressure off a single outcome. It puts the value back into the daily actions. The quality of your effort today, the integrity you bring to this conversation, the patience you practice with this problem. So here's a space to reframe. Take one of your own long-term goals. Maybe it's building a business, or achieving a certain level of fitness, or mastering a skill. Now, consciously shift your view of it. Don't see it as a destination to be reached. See it as a practice to be maintained. If your goal is fitness, success isn't a number on a scale you hit and then stop. It's the daily practice of caring for your body, of choosing movement, of listening to what it needs. The practice is the success. The numbers are just feedback. If your goal is to build a business, success isn't an exit or a revenue milestone. It's the daily practice of solving problems for your customers, of leading your team with fairness, of innovating with integrity. The practice is the success. The milestones are just markers along the road. When you make that mental shift, you disarm the arrival fallacy. You can't be disappointed by reaching a goal and finding it empty, because the goal was never the source of the meaning. The meaning was in the walking. And that walk, that practice of becoming, never has to end. The Stoics had this concept, Oikeiosis. It's the idea that our first impulse is toward connection, toward contributing. Not conquest, it's a natural pull to care for others, to be part of the common welfare. It's the opposite of social climbing. Social climbing is about elevating the self. Oikeiosis is about expanding the self to include others. Your fulfillment is tied to your usefulness, not your rank. The philosopher Hierocles illustrated it with circles. Picture a dot at the center, that's you. The first circle around it is your immediate family, then extended family, then friends, neighbors, fellow citizens. Finally, all of humanity. The practice is to draw those outer circles inward, to treat a stranger with the consideration you'd give a neighbor, to see your community's well-being as connected to your own. The goal is to make the circle of your concern as wide as possible. This isn't a call for grand sacrifice. It's a call for consistent, small acts of connection. It's the antithesis of building a personal brand, which is about differentiation, standing apart. This is about integration, strengthening the whole. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this duty. He wrote that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. Your success is meaningless if it doesn't serve the common good. For an emperor, that meant just governance. For anyone else, it means using your specific skills, your position, to contribute something of value, not for applause. Because it's the natural expression of a social being. Consider two approaches to charity. One is a philanthropist who works anonymously. They fund a local library's literacy program. They never put their name on the plaque. Their reward is knowing more people have access to stories, to learning, to a quiet place to grow. Their action springs from Oikeiosis, a felt connection to the flourishing of their town. Now consider an influencer who performs charity for social credit. They film themselves handing out meals, making sure the logo is visible. The moment is perfectly lit. The primary goal is content. The secondary goal is the aid. The action is transactional. It's social climbing disguised as service. The reward is external validation, the likes and shares, which reinforces the personal brand. One act strengthens the circle. The other, however well-intentioned, ultimately reinforces the self. Authentic success, from this Stoic view, arises from that expansion of concern. It's the deep fulfillment from knowing your efforts made a real difference. Even if no one else ever knows you did it, that legacy is built in quiet moments of contribution. Not in the noisy arena of status. So a reflective prompt. Identify one small, concrete way you can fulfill your social duty in your immediate community. Without any expectation of recognition, it could be offering genuine, uninterrupted help to a colleague struggling with a task, not to be seen as helpful, but to actually solve the problem for them. It could be volunteering an hour to tidy a shared space. It could be patiently mentoring someone newer in your field, sharing lessons you learned the hard way. The scale doesn't matter, the intention does. The act of drawing a circle inward, of making your success, however you define it, beneficial to the hive. That shift from climbing to connecting might reveal a form of fulfillment that status could never provide. Your inner boardroom meets every night. That's the Stoic practice of self-examination. A daily review where the only thing you measure is your character. The agenda isn't profit, it isn't progress, it's virtue. You're the executive and the auditor. You ask not what you gained, but how you acted. Seneca described this ritual in his work on anger. It was his nightly routine. He would ask his soul, where did I go wrong today? What could I have done better? Did I let anger in? Did I confuse someone else's opinion with a fact about me? The goal was a clear audit of his motives. Separating actions taken for genuine good from actions taken for applause, or to avoid discomfort. It's about integrity, not image. Imagine ending a day where you felt a pull toward status. Maybe in a meeting you mentioned an influential person's name, not because it was relevant, but to borrow a little of their prestige. Or maybe you held back a good idea, fearing it might sound foolish, fearing it might dent your perceived competence. In the evening review, you don't judge yourself harshly, you observe with curiosity. You might ask, in that moment of name-dropping, was I acting from wisdom and contribution, or from a need for external validation? Did I confuse my professional role with my inherent worth? The course correction isn't a punishment, it's a gentle note for tomorrow, a reminder that your value is in the substance of your ideas, not in the names you associate with them. It's a commitment to speak from your own understanding next time. This practice builds a profound self-awareness. It slowly rewires your internal compass. Away from the magnetic north of social approval, toward the true north of your own principles. To try this, there's a simple 3-question template. 1. Where today did I let an external a person's reaction, a potential reward sway my judgment or action? 2. In a challenging moment, did I act from courage and justice, or from a desire for approval or ease? 3. Did I treat someone with less consideration because I perceived their status as lower than my own? Sit with these questions quietly. The answers aren't for guilt, they're for clarity. They are the data you use to fortify your inner citadel, one honest review at a time. Seneca talked about a prison with golden bars. Today that prison could be a luxury car loan or a mortgage on a house that's just too big. The chains aren't iron, they're monthly payments, they're constant maintenance. They're that quiet fear of losing everything, Stoic simplicity, what we might call minimalism now. It's not about having nothing, it's a strategic choice for ownership. To own your things, not be owned by them. Every status symbol you get, it demands something back, your time, your attention, your peace. It becomes a point of vulnerability. A new luxury watch isn't just a watch, it's a new thing you worry about scratching. A high-end handbag isn't just a bag, it's an object that can be judged, or compared, or stolen. The more you have tied to your social image, the more hostages you give to fortune, and the more you have to lose. So freedom, it's the opposite of what consumer culture sells. It's not the ability to buy anything you want, it's the ability to walk away from almost all of it. Needing very little makes you hard to manipulate. Seneca wrote about this. In his letters, he criticized luxury, not as a moral failing, but as a practical burden. He said wealth is a slave to the rich, but a master to the poor in spirit. He praised the simplicity that creates otium philosophical leisure, that mental space, that calm, required for reflection, for deep work, for a life of purpose. When your mind is cluttered with payments, upgrades, appearances, that space vanishes. So a practical step, a status symbol audit. Look around your living space. Your digital subscriptions, your calendar. Find one possession or commitment you keep mainly for show, for the signal it sends. It could be a car you can barely afford, a gym membership you never use but it makes you feel a certain way, a streaming package with channels you never watch just to have the premium tier. Now ask 2 honest questions. What's the true, ongoing cost of this item? Not just the price, the mental cost, the worry, the comparison, the time spent maintaining its image. And second, what value does it actually bring to your character, to your core well-being? Does it create more otium or does it consume it? The gap between those 2 answers, that's the measure of your imprisonment. So your prompt, identify one single item or subscription you could remove, not as deprivation, as a declaration of independence, to decrease just a little your dependency on external signals of success. The space that opens up physically and mentally, that's where a truer kind of wealth begins. You can want to be in charge or you can want to be responsible. That difference is everything. In a culture that values status, leadership gets mixed up with authority. The title, the office, the power to give orders, that's what people see as the reward. The Stoic view turns that completely around. Real leadership from this angle doesn't start with power over other people. It starts with mastery over yourself. It's an authority that comes from how you govern your own mind. from your rationality, from your sense of justice, from a commitment to serve what's good for everyone. The title is just the setting. The real work is the internal discipline it takes to use that position well. Marcus Aurelius is the perfect example. He had the ultimate title, Emperor of Rome. But his private writings show a man constantly wrestling with his own impulses. He didn't write about strategies for dominating rivals. He wrote reminders to himself. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. When you wake up, tell yourself the people you'll deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant. But they are like that because they can't tell good from evil. He saw his leadership not as a privilege to enjoy, but as a duty to carry with patience and reason. His authority was rooted in his self-mastery, in his ability to meet provocation with calm, to administer justice without anger, to see the humanity in every citizen. The power was external, the mastery was internal. Now think about two modern managers. The first one leads from status. Their authority is their title. They rule by intimidation, by withholding praise, by taking credit for the team's successes and deflecting blame for failures. Their decisions are often driven by a need to reinforce their own position, to seem indispensable. The team's morale under this leader is transactional. It's fragile. People work out of fear, not out of a shared purpose, and the leader's own peace is just as fragile, tied to the constant performance of being the boss. The second manager leads from Stoic principles. Their authority comes from their character. They are the first to take responsibility when a project stumbles. They are quick to publicly credit their team members for breakthroughs. They lead by example, showing the diligence, the fairness, the calm they expect from others. They see their role as a service to remove obstacles, to provide clarity, to create an environment where each person can use their own virtues and grow. Their team's loyalty is earned, not commanded, and the leader's own sense of worth is secure because it's built on the integrity of their actions, not on the fear they inspire. So here's a challenge, a space for self-examination. If you're in any position of influence leading a team, a family, a community group, or even just your own projects, look back on one significant decision you made recently. A hiring choice, a resource allocation, a difficult conversation you started. Ask yourself with gentle honesty, what was the deeper motivation behind that choice? Was it mainly about reinforcing your own status, protecting your image, consolidating your control? Or was it motivated by a genuine desire to serve the growth and virtue of the people you lead? Did the decision make your team more capable, more just, more courageous? Or did it just make you feel more secure in your seat? There's no need for judgment in the answer. Only for clarity. That moment of clarity is where the Stoic leader is forged, not in the ceremony of a promotion, but in the quiet audit of your own intention. It's the recognition that the most powerful leadership tool you have is a self-governed mind, committed to the good of the whole. When you feel that envy on social media, Stoicism says there's something to learn there. That tight feeling in your chest when you see someone else's achievement, it's a signal. It's not proof you failed. It's a chance to look at what you actually value. The Stoics had a word for the toxic kind, phonos, the pain you feel at someone else's good fortune, and they had a way to transform it. They called the transformed version zelos. Healthy emulation, the difference is everything. Envy is stuck on the possession, the end result the other person has. Emulation is interested in the process, the character, the skill that created it. One eats away at your peace, the other feeds your growth. Seneca wrote about this. In his letters, he told Lucilius to surround himself with people whose qualities he could adopt. He said to choose a model for life and adjust your habits to their example. But the key is what you're looking at in that person. Are you looking at their status, their followers, their car? Or are you looking at their discipline, their patience, their resilience, how they create? The first list is what envy wants. The second list is what emulation learns from. So how does that work in practice? Say you're scrolling and you see a former colleague. They've just launched a successful independent business. The envy reaction is immediate. It whispers, "Why them and not me?" It focuses on their freedom, their apparent success, the recognition they're getting. It makes their achievement feel like a personal slight. The Stoic pause happens right there. You acknowledge the feeling, then you consciously pivot. You ask, what can I emulate here? Not their specific outcome, but the virtues that probably got them there. Maybe they showed real courage to leave a stable job. Maybe they show remarkable consistency in posting valuable content. They might have a deep creativity in solving a specific problem for their audience. Your focus shifts from their possession, the successful business, to their actions and character. You're no longer in pain at their good. You're in a state of learning from their example. This turns every person you might envy into a potential teacher. The influencer with the perfect travel photos isn't just a source of comparison for your own life. They become a case study in visual storytelling, in personal branding, in the discipline of constant creation and travel. You can study the craft without needing to own the lifestyle. The executive who got the promotion you wanted becomes a lesson in strategic communication, in building alliances, in mastering a certain domain of knowledge. Your envy, which wanted to tear them down, gets redirected into building yourself up. So here's a step. Identify one person you feel a pang of envy toward. Someone you know or a public figure. Now make a simple list. Write down 3 actionable virtues or skills this person demonstrates, which you could practice yourself. Not their job title or their possessions, their observable qualities. For example, one might be their unwavering preparation before important meetings. Another could be their generosity in crediting their team. A third might be their ability to communicate complex ideas with simplicity. This list is your emulation blueprint. It takes the energy of envy and channels it into a concrete plan for your own development. The person you envied becomes, in a strange way, an ally on your path. Their success stops being a threat to your own and starts being a map highlighting virtues worth cultivating. That shift, from corrosive comparison to focused admiration, is how you turn a universal social poison into a private source of strength. In a world of curated images, the most radical status symbol might be unbreakable honesty. It's a currency that never devalues. Personal branding teaches you to craft a narrative, to spin, to highlight only the wins. But Stoicism points to a different kind of power, the power of a word that can be absolutely trusted. This integrity in speech isn't about being blunt. It's about alignment, your words matching your thoughts and your actions matching your words. When that chain is solid, you build something rare, a self-trust that no external opinion can shake. Every time you break a promise or speak falsely for a small advantage, you do more than mislead someone else. You fracture that internal trust. You become a person you cannot fully rely on. And in doing so, you enslave yourself to the opinions of others. You have to remember the lies, manage perceptions, live in fear of being found out. Your polished reputation becomes a cage of your own making. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus spoke directly to this. In his lectures, he emphasized we should say only what is true and necessary. He saw careless or dishonest speech as a sign of a disordered soul. For him, every word was a commitment, a promise to reality itself. To speak truth was to exercise the virtue of justice, giving each thing its proper due, including the facts of a situation. This discipline turns your speech into a tool of construction, not manipulation. It builds a foundation others can stand on, and more importantly, that you can stand on. Consider a businessperson known in their industry for one thing above all: they keep their word. If they say they'll call at 3, the phone rings at 3. If they agree to a deal, they follow through, even if market conditions change and it becomes less profitable. They don't use clever language to weasel out of commitments. This reputation isn't built on a flashy campaign. It's built brick by brick through 1,000 kept promises, both big and small. The trust they cultivate isn't transactional. It's deep and lasting. People bring them opportunities not because their brand is the shiniest, but because their foundation is the most solid. In a crisis, others will rally to their side because they know this person's word is a guarantee. This is a success that transcends any single deal. It's a capital of goodwill that compounds over a lifetime. So here is a space for practice. This week, make one small, specific promise to yourself and keep it meticulously. It must be entirely within your control. It could be as simple as I will go for a 20-minute walk every morning before checking my phone, or I will not complain about a single thing at work today, or I will spend 30 minutes reading a book instead of scrolling tonight. Choose something concrete, then observe the internal mechanics. Notice the moment you're tempted to break it. The rationalization that whispers it doesn't matter, and then choose to keep it anyway. Feel the quiet sense of strength that follows. That is the feeling of your word becoming currency, of your inner citadel receiving another stone. In a culture of spin, that internal integrity is the quietest and most revolutionary form of status you can ever own. A tree doesn't worry about not being a forest, it just grows steadily, season after season. That's the Stoic idea of patience. It's not passive, it's an active strength. It's understanding that virtue, anything worthwhile, develops on nature's timeline, not on the impatient schedule of our own ego. And we live in a culture obsessed with overnight success, with hacks for rapid growth. So this kind of patience, it feels like a rebellion, because those quick wins, they're often built on fragile foundations. A viral post fades, a get-rich-quick scheme collapses, a promotion gained through shortcuts. It leaves you unprepared for the responsibility. Stoic patience builds from the bedrock up. It trusts the process of becoming. Marcus Aurelius looked to nature for this. He wrote that nothing happens to anything which that thing isn't made by nature to bear. He saw how a fig tree bears figs in its season, how all things come to fruition in their own time. To hurry that, to demand figs in winter, it's a kind of folly, a rejection of the natural order. And he reminded himself, even if you are broken, you can still do what is in your power to do. You can be like a lamp that's shattered but continues to give light until the last moment. That light is your steady effort, your consistent practice, regardless of when the harvest comes. Think about a writer. The status-driven dream is a debut bestseller. Immediate acclaim, a rapid rise to fame, but the Stoic-informed path, it looks different. It's a writer who dedicates years, maybe decades, to honing their craft in obscurity. They write daily, not for a book deal, but because the act of writing aligns with their nature. It cultivates their wisdom, their discipline. They study language. They revise endlessly. They build a body of work piece by piece, learning from each unpublished story. Their focus is on the integrity of the sentence, the truth of the character, the depth of the idea, and recognition when it finally arrives. It finds them as a master of their craft. Their success endures because it's built on a foundation of 10,000 hours of patient practice. It earns deep respect, not just fleeting fame. Their patience was the active cultivation of the skill itself. The tree grew strong roots before anyone noticed its height. So here's a space for your own cultivation. Identify one skill, one meaningful project where you felt impatient for recognition. Maybe it's learning a language, building a side business, mastering an instrument, deepening a relationship. For the next month, make a quiet commitment. Shift your entire focus away from checking for external validation, the likes, the sales, the praise. Redirect that energy solely toward its gradual, steady improvement. Dedicate a specific, small amount of time each day to the practice itself. Let the measure of success be the subtle increase in your own competence. the integrity of your effort, and notice how the anxiety about the outcome softens when your gaze is fixed on the growth, season by patient season. The Stoics had this image of fortune as a river. A powerful, raging river. You can't control where it flows or how fast it goes, but you can learn to swim in it, to keep from drowning in the bad times or floating away when things are good. They gave it a name, Tich, a goddess who's completely fickle. She gives and she takes on a whim. We live in a culture obsessed with status, and we're taught that success comes from hard work and luck. But when we look at other people, we fixate on the luck. We see someone get a windfall and we think they were just in the right place, or we hit a setback and call it rotten luck. Stoicism takes that focus and redirects it completely. It says the only thing that matters is your posture, your stance in the boat. Whether the river is calm or wild, your task is the same. To steer with reason, to not let the waves of emotion capsize you, the waves that come with sudden gain or sudden loss. Your character isn't defined by what fortune hands you. It's tested by how you receive it, and it's displayed in that reception. A promotion from a departing boss is a wave. A sudden layoff is a wave. Neither one is the essence of you. They're just conditions of the water you're sailing through. Seneca wrote about this extensively. In his essay on the shortness of life, he warns about letting fortune steal your time. With empty pursuits, with chasing her favors, he saw her gifts as loans, never as possessions, and in his letters consoling friends who'd suffered loss, he didn't tell them their pain wasn't real. He guided them to see the loss as something outside themselves, something that couldn't touch their core, their capacity for virtue. His advice was to enjoy prosperity without arrogance, and to endure adversity without complaint, because both are visitations from the same unpredictable source. There's a modern parable about two lottery winners. The first winner sees the jackpot as the ultimate validation. They buy the mansion, the luxury cars, the wardrobe that screams wealth. Their social circle shifts to other winners. Their identity gets tangled up in the performance of being rich. They're riding the wave, but they've forgotten how to swim. And when the money dwindles through mismanagement or just the cost of that life, the crash is total. Their sense of self evaporates with the bank balance. The second winner sees the windfall through a Stoic lens. They see it as an external, a massive wave of good fortune. But their character remains the captain. They pay off debts. They secure a modest, comfortable life for their family. They set up a quiet fund to support causes they care about. They don't seek a new status. They keep their old friendships, their routines, their values. The money becomes a tool for security and for service, not a new identity. And when people eventually learn about the wealth, they're surprised by the person's unchanged demeanor. This winner enjoyed the gift without being owned by it. They swam in the wave without forgetting they were the swimmer. So, look back on your own journey. Identify one past lucky break, an unexpected opportunity. A chance meeting that led to a job, a time when things just fell into place. Now identify one past bad break, a missed chance, an unforeseen obstacle. A loss. Hold both in your mind, and instead of focusing on the events, ask a different question. How did my character remain constant through each season? Or how was it challenged? Did the good fortune make me kinder or more arrogant? Did the hardship make me more resilient or more bitter? The answer isn't about judging your past self. It's about recognizing that you, the swimmer, have always been separate from the river's current, and that separation is the source of a calm. A calm no fortune can disrupt. Networking isn't about business cards. It's about finding people on the same path of virtue. In a world that counts contacts, the Stoic asks something else. Not how many people you know, how deeply you're known by a few. Your network should be a garden for your character, not a ledger for your career. It's about relationships rooted in shared values, where the currency isn't favors, it's honest feedback, encouragement toward living well. That's a Stoic network. Its value is in the quality of your character, not the quantity of your contacts. Epictetus was clear. You have to choose your companions carefully, because we absorb the habits of the people we spend time with. If you're surrounded by people frantic for status, people who gossip, who cut corners, your own soul begins to lean that way. Their anxieties become yours. Their shallow measures of success start to sound reasonable, but if you seek out thoughtful people, people who act with integrity even when it's difficult, people who discuss ideas, not gossip, their influence steadies you. Their presence is a reminder of what you're trying to become. It's not about finding perfect people. It's about finding people engaged in the work of becoming better. The shared pursuit is the bond. Think about two people at a professional event. The first works the room. The goal is 20 business cards, a memorable pitch to 3 potential clients. Find 2 people who might be useful later. The conversations are transactional, focused on surface achievements. They leave with a stack of cards, a tally of potential advantages. The second person attends with a different intention. They look for 1 or 2 meaningful conversations. Maybe they find a colleague from another department, ask a genuine question about an ethical challenge they've both faced. They listen deeply, share their own struggles honestly. The conversation moves past small talk, into shared values, into professional integrity. They leave with one new understanding. And the seed of a relationship built on something more than utility. The first network is wide and shallow, like a puddle that evaporates quickly. The second is deep and narrow, like a well that provides for a long journey. When a crisis hits or a moment of moral uncertainty, who do you call? The person whose card you have, or the person you've talked with about doing the right thing? So consider a quiet audit. List the 5 people you spend the most time with, in thought or in conversation. Close friends, family, colleagues you engage daily. Now evaluate these relationships, not by their status, by their influence on your character. Does time with them leave you more anxious about your position, or more centered on your purpose? Do your conversations reinforce the pursuit of external validation, or do they challenge you to think about wisdom, courage, justice? This isn't about judging them, it's about understanding the environment you're cultivating for your own soul. The composition of your inner circle, that's the greatest predictor. The greatest predictor of which way your character will grow. Stoicism values silence, not as shyness, not as holding back. It's a choice, a tactical step away from all the noise, from the competition for status. You let the dust settle, the dust of other people's opinions, so you can see your own path. This isn't running away, it's a retreat to gather strength, to recharge your own reason, to avoid being pulled into the collective folly of a room, an office, an online feed. You step back so you can step forward with purpose, not just react. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this. He talked about inner retreat. People look for retreats in the country, by the sea, but you can retreat into your own mind. Anytime, nowhere is more peaceful or less crowded. He found tranquility by withdrawing into himself, into the citadel of his own reason, away from the clamor of the court, the demands, the politics. In that silence, he could hear his own principles, not the shouted opinions of the crowd. Now think about the modern version, the constant pings, the pressure to have a hot take on everything, the obligation to be available, to be engaged in every conversation. This environment isn't neutral. It shapes your thoughts. It pulls your attention toward what's trending, what's controversial, what gets a reaction. Strategic silence is unplugging that force deliberately. One practical way is a weekly hour of solitude. No devices, no podcasts, no music, no scrolling. Just you, your thoughts, maybe a notebook. The goal isn't productivity, it's reacquaintance, letting the mental static fade. the static generated by other people's agendas. In that quiet, you might notice which of your ambitions feel authentic and which feel like echoes of what you're supposed to want. Another is the conscious opt-out. You're in a conversation turning to gossip, or a pointless online debate where the goal is to win, not understand. The Stoic move is strategic silence. Don't offer the next piece of gossip. Don't post the clever retort. Withdraw your energy from that cycle. In that moment of withholding, you assert control. You declare your peace and clarity are more valuable than winning a petty point. You re-enter only when you can contribute something aligned with virtue. Not just noise, so a direct challenge. Schedule 30 minutes of complete silence and solitude this week. A walk without headphones, sitting in a quiet room. The conditions are simple: no external input, no goal except to be present with your own mind. Use the time to reflect on one question, away from all social pressure. What is one core value I want to guide my actions, regardless of who is watching? Don't force an answer. Let the question sit in the quiet. The clarity that comes from that silence is a compass. Calibrated not by the world's noise, but by your own still, small voice. You stop using outside judges. You become the only auditor of your life, with a rubric you design yourself. That's the Stoic scorecard. It's private, personal. It has nothing to do with society's ledger. The columns aren't for dollars or followers. They're for courage, for temperance, for justice, for wisdom. This scorecard tracks the only wealth that compounds without risk: the growth of your character. It brings you back to that opening idea, the telos. Your ultimate aim. This is how you measure progress toward it, not by how far you've climbed on a ladder built by others, but by how solid you've become on the ground you stand on. Marcus Aurelius kept one, in a sense. His private writings were a nightly audit, not of imperial conquests, of personal failings and philosophical victories. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The scorecard is the tool that moves you from argument to action, from admiring virtue to enacting it. So what does this look like in practice? Let's build a simple framework. Instead of checking your bank balance first thing, or your social media notifications, you dedicate a few quiet minutes to a different kind of accounting. You might ask yourself just 2 or 3 questions, rooted in the 4 cardinal virtues. For courage, where did I choose the harder right over the easier wrong this week, however small that choice seemed? For temperance, where did I successfully pause an impulse? To spend, to speak in anger, to indulge in distraction, and choose a more reasoned path. For justice, did I treat someone, especially someone with less perceived power or status, with the full dignity and fairness they deserved? For wisdom, what did I learn this week that genuinely changed my perspective or improved my judgment? Walk through a single week with this lens. Monday, you're in a meeting. A colleague presents an idea that's immediately shot down. The status-driven impulse is to stay silent, to align with the critics, but you remember your scorecard. The column for courage, you speak up, you find one valuable point in your colleague's idea and voice it. That's a mark in the courage column. Wednesday, you feel the pull to buy something advertised as a must-have. You pause, you ask if this purchase aligns with a need or a want. You decide to wait. That's a mark for temperance. Friday, you notice a new team member struggling. Isolated, you take 10 minutes to show them a simple process. That's a mark for justice. None of these actions will appear on a performance review, but on your Stoic scorecard. They are the entries that matter. They are the progress that counts. Your reflective prompt is this: draft 3 personal, non-comparative questions you will ask yourself each Sunday. They must be based on internal virtue, not external validation. They could be as simple as, did my actions this week align with my core values? Did I meet a difficulty with resilience rather than complaint? Did I create more than I consumed? Write them down, place them where you'll see them. This weekly conversation with yourself guided by your own rubric, begins to rewire your sense of achievement. You start to collect a different kind of evidence about your life, evidence of integrity, of growth, of quiet strength, and over time, that evidence builds into an unshakable confidence. The confidence of a person who knows their worth because they are the one who defines it. Philosophy is worthless if it stays in books. You have to translate it into daily ritual. The whole journey from the Telos to the Inner Citadel, it only becomes real when you weave it into your ordinary days. That's where theory meets the pavement of your life. Success here isn't built on grand declarations. It's built on small, consistent actions, micro-practices. Over time, they rewire your instincts away from external validation and toward internal integrity. It's a daily training regimen for your character. An athlete doesn't get strong with one workout. Your philosophical resilience is forged through repetition. Epictetus offered this encouragement. He said progress isn't achieved by luck or accident. It's made little by little through repeated practice. No one becomes virtuous by hearing a clever lecture. They become so by the daily exercise of choice. So a simple, sustainable framework, a Stoic morning ritual and an evening review. The morning sets your intention. The evening audits your alignment. Consistency is everything. Perfection isn't the goal. Showing up is. Start with 5 minutes in the morning, before you check your phone, before the world's demands rush in. First, read one short Stoic passage, a single line from Marcus Aurelius or Seneca. Let it sit with you. Don't analyze it. Let it be a tone setter, a reminder of the larger perspective. Second, apply the dichotomy of control. Identify one single thing within your sphere of influence to focus on today. Make it concrete. It could be the quality of your attention in a meeting, your patience in a routine task, the thoroughness of your preparation for one project. That's your anchor point, your locus of effort. Third, name one potential status trap you might encounter. The urge to compare your progress to a colleague's, anxiety about a performance review, the pull to buy something for the image it projects. Simply naming it, bringing it into the light of your awareness, disarms its power. You're not fighting it, you're acknowledging it as an external, a wave in fortune's river you are prepared to navigate. Then you move into your day, carrying that quiet, 3-part framework with you. In the evening, as you prepare for rest, you conduct the review. This isn't about guilt or self-criticism. It's a neutral audit. You might ask yourself 2 questions. Where today did I succeed in focusing on what was within my control? And where did I notice myself getting hooked by a status trap? What did that feel like? The goal is observation, learning, not judgment. This daily cycle, morning and evening, creates a feedback loop. It turns abstract principles into lived experience. You start to collect data on your own patterns. You see which situations trigger that old hunger for external validation, and you build the muscle in real time to pivot back to your own virtuous action. So a reflective prompt and an invitation. Commit to one tiny 5-minute Stoic practice you will do every day for the next week. It could be this morning ritual. It could be pausing once each afternoon to sort a worry using the dichotomy of control. Or it could be the evening review. Choose one. Keep it small enough that you cannot possibly fail. Then observe not the external results but the internal shifts. Does the morning ritual create a calmer start? Does noticing the status trap make its pull feel less automatic? Does the evening reflection bring a sense of closure rather than anxious rumination? These subtle effects are the real progress. They are the quiet rewiring of your relationship with success. One conscious minute at a time. The final thing is quiet, but it's deep. Stoicism isn't just giving you tips for success. It changes the goal itself. It shifts the whole pursuit away from chasing external status and toward building inner virtue. The quiet strength of your character becomes the only wealth that matters. We've walked through this, starting with understanding the telos, your ultimate aim, which is to live with virtue. Then sorting your life with the dichotomy of control, putting your energy only into what you command. We saw how Amor Fati teaches you to love your fate, to find the gift in any obstacle. How the inner citadel becomes a fortress of self-worth, and we measured progress not by applause, but by a private scorecard: wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. This is an ancient map for modern confusion. It points to a success that can't be taken from you, one that gets more solid with every challenge. Epictetus, who was born into slavery, put it clearly. He said wealth isn't about having great possessions, but in having few wants. The real treasure is discovering you already have everything you need for a good life. It's the disciplined mind, the resilient spirit, the capacity for clear judgment and for kind action. That's the wealth within. So as we finish, here's a quiet prompt. Look back over the ideas: the dichotomy of control, Amor Fati, the inner citadel, the view from above, the discipline of desire. Choose just one principle that resonated most. Commit to acting on it in a small, concrete way over the next week. Maybe you'll practice sorting one daily worry into what you control and what you don't. Or meet a single setback with curiosity, asking what it can teach you, or perform one act of integrity that only you will ever know. The action itself is the transformation. That's how philosophy leaves the page and enters your life. I'd like to hear which idea called to you. Share in the comments one Stoic principle you're taking with you and one small step you'll take. Your journey inspires others. If exploring how ancient wisdom navigates modern complexity speaks to you, consider subscribing. Together we can keep building lives of deeper meaning, resilience, and authentic success. Thank you for walking this path.